Chapter 3. Rural Life During the British Rule. Agriculture has been the main occupation of the people of India since the ancient times. When the British came to India, most of the Indian villages were self-sufficient. Most of the things that the villagers needed were produced by their fellow beings in the village itself. Farmers were the owner of their land. They paid a certain amount of their produce to the king in the form of land revenue. In case of crop failure due to lack of rain or any other natural calamities, the king reduced the revenue or sometimes totally wrote it off. But the British changed the whole scenario. The company had appointed agents to collect land revenue. They collected land revenues strictly and in cash. Besides, most of the agricultural or revenue policies started by the British were against the farmers. Permanent Settlement, 1793. The company wanted to have a regular income through the land revenue. So, the company fixed the land revenue of Bengal and Bihar on a permanent basis. This scheme was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis and came to be known as the Permanent Settlement. Its main features were as follows. The revenue to be collected from an area was fixed permanently with no scope of a revision later. The local zamindar was asked to collect the revenue from the peasants. Every year, he had to pay the fixed amount by a certain date. If he was able to collect more revenue from the land, he could keep the surplus amount. But if he could not pay the stipulated amount, he would lose his zamindari right. The land then would be given to another zamindar. This system of revenue collection proved to be very advantageous for the company. This system made the condition of farmers worse. They had to pay a very high revenue and could be evicted if they failed to do so. Mehalwari System. The Mehalwari system was introduced in present-day western Uttar Pradesh, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. In these areas, land was commonly owned by a group of villages called Mahals. The task of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the headman of each Mahal. Also, the revenue demand was not fixed permanently, but could be revised periodically. Ryotwari System. Thomas Munro was the man behind the introduction of Ryotwari System. It was introduced in parts of the Madras and Bombay presidencies. Under this, the company made a revenue settlement directly with the ryot or peasant. The farmer was the owner to the land as long as he paid the land revenue. Also, the revenue was fixed according to the fertility of the soil. Impact of agrarian policies. The British agrarian policies had a bad impact on the economic condition of the peasants. Land now became a saleable commodity which could be bought, sold or mortgaged. This had a deep impact on rural life and economy. During British rule, most peasants survived on very small incomes. The company's revenue demands, failure of crops, and costly social customs such as marriages and festivals often forced the peasants to either sell part of their land or borrow money from the village moneylender. The moneylender mortgaged the land of the peasant and charged a high rate of interest. Once in debt, most peasants were unable to repay the money. So the mortgaged land was taken away by the moneylender. Once landless, the peasant found it impossible to support his family. Emphasis on the cultivation of cash crops. The British forced the peasants to grow commercial or cash crops such as indigo, jute, oilseeds, sugarcane, tea, coffee, and cotton. These crops were widely used in the British manufacturing industries and hence the company encouraged their cultivation. The officials of the company forced the peasants to sow cash crops in their fields. In course of time, however, this practice resulted in a decline in the production of food grains and an acute shortage of food supply.